Hi guys, welcome to another dorm room review video. In this video, I will be reviewing Rhine's Dice by Mello. Now, I actually have not seen the new Theory 11 release. I want to say that up front, I haven't seen it. I saw the PDF version that Matt released, I don't know, I guess a year or two ago. And it was a small release that he released for a limited number of people, and it was an incredible inspiration for me. It was one of my first few PDFs that I saw of Matt Mello's, and I fell in love with it instantly. It's the simplicity of the effect mixed with the power of what the spectator receives that makes this truly remarkable. It's now available on Theory 11 as a video, and they also ship you 3 dice so that once you buy it, you're literally ready to go instantly. And I know that I've seen some people in the cafe complaining about this already because it does just use ordinary dice. So there's really no need for them to ship 3 dice, because if you have 3 dice, you can do Rhine's Dice by Mello. But I think Matt's trying to talk with Theory 11 to see if he can get a download-only option, but even if he can't, for $15, you're getting 3 dice and a full video teaching you everything you need to know about this routine. So it's worth it. Just go ahead and buy it, get the dice, have extra dice, and be able to perform this trick. So what is the trick? Well, it's actually 2 phases. You propose 2 different tests that Dr. Rhine came up with, and Dr. Rhine came up with all of these tests to see if someone was psychic. He's the one who came up with all the ESP symbols and this sort of thing. And you say, I have 2 tests that use these dice. So the first one, you have 3 dice, you hand it to the spectator, the performer turns his back, and the spectator puts the die in any arrangement they want with any numbers facing up in a stack on the table, so that there's a tower of 3 dice. But they can arrange so that any numbers are showing on any side, and they leave it there. The performer then says he's going to turn around, and when he does, he's going to look at all the sides of the tower, or he can have the spectator quickly spin the tower around without knocking it over, and he is going to try to calculate exactly how many black dots are showing. So he turns around, they spin the tower, and he shouts out the number, and they count them up, and he's exactly right. So he says 43, and they count the black spots, and there is exactly 43 spots showing. Now this could be done as a mental calculation, or it can be presented as this is a psychic thing, and I just put my hand in front of the die. I turn around, I put my hand out, and I say, ooh, 43, and they look, and there's 43. I have an idea, and again, I haven't seen the video, so I don't know if this is covered in the video or not, but you could also very, very easily look at them to give them one final suggestion, turn back around, have them count up all the dice while you're turned around, and then instantly tell them the number that they're thinking of. So then in that case, it turns into sort of a mind-reading effect. So the idea in that performance would be they put the die in any random combination, you turn to them and say something really quickly, you turn back and say, count up how many black spots there are, think about this number, you're thinking of the number 43 or whatever. So that kind of makes it into a more mind-reading place, and I really like that idea. If you can't figure out how to do that after you've seen the video, then I mean, you can message me on the cafe or on YouTube here, and I'll try to help you out, but you have to have already owned Rhine Dice, and if you already own it, that should be fairly obvious how you can do it based on my description. So I think that's a really cool way to make it into a mind-reading effect. And then you are successful in the first phase. So you say, you know what, let's take this up to a second test that Dr. Rhine did. This was the second phase. And you tell them they can choose any one of the die, and they roll it on the table. You turn your back as a performer, and they roll the die on the table. They can roll it multiple times to make sure it's not loaded or a trick die in any way, shape, or form. They eventually end up with a random number they're happy with, or they could even choose a number they'd like and stick that one on the table face up. It's really up to you how they choose that number. They then cover it up with their hands so there's no way anybody could see it. They literally make sure it's completely covered from all sides. And you keep your back turned as the performer. You lead them through a little visualization process. While your back is still turned, they take the die, they mix it up so that they roll it around a little bit on the table. They hand it to the performer behind the back. The performer can look at the spectator, pick up vibes from them or whatever. He sets the die on the table, and he covers it with 2 fingers and says, I believe the number you're thinking of is the one that's on top of this die. So the one number that's right below my 2 fingers is the one you're thinking of. He says, name your number. They say 3. He lifts his finger, and of course the number 3 is there on the die. Now that's sort of the original way. That's the way that Matt does it. I have a few ideas as well. I think you could, and again, this may be taught in the video download, but you could also grab the die behind your back if you'd like, pull it out to the front, look at the die, look at them, and then set the number 3 up on the table without covering it. You could do it like that. Or even, I think this is a really cool idea, if you take the die behind your back, you look at them, you literally just throw the die away because you're done with it, you don't need it anymore, and then you just look at them and tell them the number they're thinking of. That's another fantastic way to do this. Or if you want to take it up an even another level, you could have them roll the die, cover it, you leave it through blah, 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 blah. You put the die away, and then you tell them, I'm going to name six words, and I want you to think of one of these words. And you name 6 words, and you look at them, and you tell them the word they're thinking of, or whatever, because this is a system for allowing you to know what number they are just thinking of. And because of that, you can do some really cool things. It's a number between 1 and 6, obviously, because it's a die. I guess in theory, you could use a die with more sides than 6, but that would take more practice and more time. I would say definitely start out with the 6-sided die. But again, it allows you to know what number they're thinking of on that die in a very, very fair way. It literally seems impossible, like there's no way it could have happened. And I'll say that whenever I read the PDF, I was in love with it. I was really in love with the method. I knew the method. I was familiar with the method, but I'd never seen it used in this way. I'd seen it used years and years and years ago in a very ineffective way that had no value and no meaning, and Matt was able to take that very ineffective method and make it very effective by changing the props that it used and really changing how it worked altogether. Same basic method, but really a whole new monster. And I think Matt's very, very good at that. He's good at taking something that doesn't work in one field and makes it work in another by changing maybe something very, very small, maybe something very, very big. In this case, it's basically a completely different trick. If you perform the other one and then this one would seem much better, I believe. But the basic concept of the method is still the same. And I think Matt is very, very good at that. And I think he shines in that kind of ability to take an old tainted method and make it new and make it work and something that is super, super practical, which brings me to the practicality of this effect. This effect is so practical. It uses 3 dice. If you have 3 dice, you can do this trick. Technically, you could use 4 dice, you could use 5 dice, you could use 2 dice, you could use any number of dice for the first routine. However many you want, you would just have to know how many you were going to use and be prepared for that, and you could use any number of dice you wanted, whatever. For the second routine, you could even have 3 or 4 die and have 3 or 4 people choosing a number, and you could go and tell each person their number. It really is a versatile method that is so simple to do. And again, very, very practical. It uses ordinary dice. There's nothing weird about them. There's nothing trick about them. They're not loaded. They're not special in any way, shape, or form, which to me makes this really, really cool for a game night. If you are ever at a game night with your friends and it's a game that uses dice, you can perform a miracle, literally something that is so impressive and just out of the blue and impromptu because it's using the die from the board game you're playing. I think it is a great release. I think for $15 you should buy it right now and just get the dice. I know you already have dice. I know you do. I know you can run to the store and get dice, but just go ahead, spend the $15 on Theory 11, get the dice, get the download, watch it, and be thoroughly amazed and impressed and ready to go at all times with a really, really solid piece of mind reading using just a normal die. I can't say enough good things about this release. Bad things, I guess the only bad thing about this routine is it takes some practice. The first phase is super, super easy and you can do it literally within minutes of watching the download. The second phase takes some practice. It's not hard, it just takes some getting used to, and I have to be careful with my words because I don't want to expose anything. But it's a new method, and it's a new way. It's just a new method, and as with all new methods, it's going to take some experimenting for you to really understand the differences and understand how the method works. But if you want a way that's 100% impromptu and super, super cheap to do something that Pro Mystic is doing with a $300 die that they roll and you know the number, if you want a way to do that completely impromptu without the expensive electronics which could fail you, then this is a great alternative. And you could absolutely do what they do with Pro Mystic with this die. Just a couple of extra steps, obviously, because you're not using electronics, you're using a method. But honestly, the steps are justified, and it's even steps that I could see myself using if I used the Pro Mystic die. Like, it's steps that help the routine progress and seem interesting. And again, I could see somebody who has Pro Mystic rolling the electronic die, putting their hand on top, going through the visualization process, and then you telling them the number, which is exactly what you do in this. So I could see the method for Rhine's dice being used as a presentation for other tricks, and because of that, it's the same effect. Now, spectators are going to see the exact same effect. Again, if you want to be able to do that very expensive trick, which is still a 1 in 6 chance, this is a great alternative.